The words hit me like a physical blow. You never deserved it. That's what my father's letter said. His final message to me before leaving everything, and I mean everything, to my ex-husband, Elijah. I'm Ariel, and at 35, I thought I'd seen every cruel trick life could throw at me. I was wrong. I'm sorry, but the will is quite clear. Turner, my father's lawyer, said from across his mahogany desk. His voice was gentle, but his eyes couldn't quite meet mine. The estate, the properties, the investment portfolio, it's all going to Elijah. He's my ex-husband, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. We've been divorced for 2 years. Your father made these arrangements 6 months ago, shortly before his... Turner cleared his throat. Before his condition worsened, I sat there in my charcoal gray suit, the one I'd worn to close a $1 million deal just yesterday, feeling like that small girl who could never quite earn her father's approval. The leather chair beneath me felt cold and uninviting, just like every childhood dinner where my academic achievements were met with stony silence. There must be some mistake, my mother Bridget said from the chair beside me. She'd aged 10 years in the past week, her usually perfectly styled hair showing strands of gray. Harold wouldn't... It's exactly what he would do. I cut her off, standing up. May I see the letter again? Turner handed me the envelope. My father's handwriting was shaky but determined, just like everything else about him. I scanned past the formal declarations until I reached the personal note. Ariel, you chose your career over family. You chose your ambitious dreams over the legacy I built. You never deserved it. Elijah understands the value of family tradition, of maintaining what generations before us created. He will honor our name better than you ever could. A knock at the door interrupted my reading. Mr. Lawson? His secretary called. Mr. Thornton is here. My stomach clenched. Of course he'd come. Elijah walked in, all designer suit and practiced charm. His eyes met mine, and that familiar smirk played across his lips. Ariel, he said, as if we were meeting for coffee. I'm so sorry for your loss. Save it, I replied, turning to Turner. Is there anything else I need to sign? Actually, Turner began, shuffling through some papers. There are a few documents regarding the tech company shares. The shares? Elijah interrupted, suddenly alert. Those were supposed to be included in the estate. I allowed myself a small smile. The shares were transferred to my nonprofit's endowment fund last year. Dad signed off on it himself. What? Elijah's charm cracked. That's impossible. Harold would never check the paperwork, I said, gathering my bag. Dad might not have believed in me, but he did believe in tax benefits. The transfer was completely legal. This isn't over, Elijah called as I headed for the door. I'll contest it. I paused, hand on the doorknob. Contest all you want, but first check your mail. You'll be receiving an invitation soon. An invitation? My mother's voice was confused. To what? The 10th anniversary gala for my nonprofit, I said. We're celebrating a decade of helping women succeed in tech. It would mean so much to have you there, Elijah. After all, you're family now, aren't you? The look of uncertainty that flashed across his face was worth more than any inheritance. Outside Turner's office, the California sun was blinding. My phone buzzed. Carson, my co-founder and best friend, calling for updates. How bad? He asked when I answered. Exactly as we expected, I replied, sliding into my Tesla. Dad left everything to Elijah. Everything except what matters most, I confirmed. Start the gala preparations. It's time to show them what I've really built. Are you sure about this? Carson's voice was concerned. We could just let it go. Focus on the future. I thought about my father's words again. You never deserved it. The same words he'd said when I announced I was starting my own company instead of joining his. The same sentiment behind every disappointed look when I chose coding camps over cotillions. No, I said firmly. Some things need to come to light. Send the invitations. As I drove home, I thought about the empire I'd built while my father wasn't looking. The thousands of women we'd helped break into tech, the millions in funding we'd secured, the future we were creating. Dad was right about one thing. I never deserved his money. I'd earned something far better on my own. And in 3 weeks at the gala, everyone would understand exactly what that meant. Pull up the asset transfer documents again, I told Carson as we sat in my office overlooking San Francisco Bay. The morning fog was just starting to lift, revealing the gleaming towers below. Already ahead of you, he said, spreading papers across my desk. Everything's ironclad. Your father signed over 30% of his tech holdings to the nonprofit's endowment last year. I picked up the document that had started it all, a seemingly innocent tax planning proposal I'd presented to my father. He was so focused on minimizing his estate tax burden that he never looked past the numbers. Classic Harold, Carson snorted, always thinking he was the smartest person in the room. My phone buzzed. A text from Beatrice, one of our most successful program graduates who now ran our mentorship initiative. The gala venue is confirmed. The Four Seasons Ballroom, just as you requested. Perfect, I replied, then looked up at Carson. Have you started the guest list? Top tech CEOs, venture capitalists, major donors. He paused, grinning. And of course, your dear ex-husband and his new inheritance. Don't forget the press, I added. I want every tech journalist in Silicon Valley there. Carson leaned back in his chair, studying me. You know, we could just announce the endowment transfer through a press release. Why make it so theatrical? Before I could answer, my office door opened and Turner walked in, looking uncomfortable in his usual suit and tie. Ariel, he said, clutching his briefcase. We need to talk about something. I gestured to the chair beside Carson. Please sit. There's a document, Turner began. One that your father made me promise not to mention until after the will was read. He pulled out a yellowed envelope. It's about the company's founding. My heart skipped a beat. The founding? But that was 30 years ago. Yes, Turner nodded. And it involves your mother. Carson stood up. I should probably stay, I said sharply. Whatever this is, I want a witness. Turner opened the envelope with trembling fingers. Your mother wasn't just a silent partner in the company's creation. She was the one who developed the initial software architecture. Your father, he bought her out when you were young, made her sign an NDA. The room seemed to spin. He what? That's why she never fought back, Turner continued. Why she stayed quiet all these years. The NDA had a lifetime clause, but he slid the document across my desk. It expired upon his death. I scanned the papers, my mother's signature clear at the bottom. Dates, code specifications, patent applications, all in her name originally. Does Elijah know about this? I asked. No, Turner replied. Your father made sure this stayed buried. He thought it would diminish his legacy. I reached for my phone, dialing my mother's number. It rang twice before she answered. Mom, can you come to my office? There's something we need to discuss. An hour later, my mother sat in the same chair Turner had occupied, tears streaming down her face as she read the old documents. I never wanted you to know, she whispered. He promised he'd support your dreams if I stayed quiet. But then he did everything he could to stop me anyway, I finished. She looked up at me, really looked at me, perhaps for the first time in years. What are you going to do? I walked to my window, watching the fog completely dissipate to reveal the clear bay waters below. First, we're going to digitize every page of these documents. Then we're going to prepare a very special presentation for the gala. The anniversary gala? She asked. Yes, I smiled. We're celebrating 10 years of helping women reclaim their place in tech. Seems fitting to start with the woman who helped build one of Silicon Valley's pioneering companies, don't you think? My mother's eyes widened. Ariel, no. The scandal. The scandal, I cut in, will be nothing compared to the inspiration. Think of all the women out there fighting the same battles we fought. They deserve to know the truth. Carson, who'd been quietly observing, finally spoke up. The invitations go out tomorrow. Should I add any special notes? I thought about Elijah, probably sitting in my father's old office right now, thinking he'd won it all. I thought about my father's last words to me. You never deserved it. Yes, I said, picking up one of the original patent applications with my mother's name on it. Add a quote to Elijah's invitation. The truth has a way of surfacing, just like cream rising to the top. My mother reached for my hand. Are you sure about this? I squeezed her hand back, feeling the strength of 2 generations of silenced women flowing between us. More sure than I've ever been about anything. It's time for our story to be told. I always knew something was off about your marriage, my mother said, stirring her coffee at the small cafe near my office. 2 weeks until the gala, and the weight of memories felt heavier than ever. What do you mean? I asked, though I already knew. The way Elijah would look at your father's office, like a hungry cat eyeing a canary. She set her spoon down with a soft clink. He married you for the connections, didn't he? I remembered our first date. How impressed he'd been when I mentioned my father's company. How quickly he'd proposed after meeting Dad at a charity gala. It took me 3 years to figure it out, I admitted. Remember that night I came to your house? She nodded. You were soaking wet from the rain. I'd found emails, I said, my voice dropping. He'd been meeting with Dad behind my back, discussing company succession plans. They'd already decided my role would be advisory at best. The cafe door chimed, and I looked up to see Beatrice walking in, tablet in hand. She spotted us and hurried over. Sorry to interrupt, she said, but we have a situation. Elijah's trying to access the company's historical records. I sat up straighter. He can't. Those are sealed. He's claiming executor rights through the inheritance, Beatrice explained. It called me when they got the request. My mother's face paled. The original code is safe, I assured her. I moved everything sensitive to secure servers last year. He'll only find what we want him to find. My phone buzzed. A text from Carson. He just left the building, heading your way. Speaking of the devil, I muttered. Mom, you should go. Beatrice, stay. My mother gathered her things quickly, but paused before leaving. Ariel, there's something else you should know about your father. The cafe door chimed again. Elijah walked in, looking exactly like the corporate shark he was in his tailored suit and leather briefcase. Well, isn't this cozy? He said, approaching our table. Bridget, lovely to see you. My mother hurried past him without a word. Elijah watched her go, then turned to me with that practiced smile. We need to talk about the records access. No, we don't, I replied. Company archives are under nonprofit control now. Board decision, last year. His smile tightened. Your father wouldn't have... My father signed everything, I cut in. Just like he signed your inheritance. Funny how papers work, isn't it? Beatrice shifted beside me, and Elijah seemed to notice her for the first time. And you are? Beatrice Webb, Director of Mentorship Programs, she said coolly. And one of the many women your ex-wife has helped succeed in tech. Elijah's eyes narrowed. Ah yes, the famous nonprofit. Tell me, how many millions in company resources have you diverted to this charity project? Would you like to find out? I asked sweetly. Come to the gala. We're doing a full financial presentation. Very transparent. I got your invitation, he said. Cute quote. Should I be worried? I stood up, gathering my things. You should be worried about a lot of things, Elijah, starting with what else my father might have signed without reading the fine print. His composure cracked slightly. What are you planning, Ariel? Come to the gala, I repeated. Front row seat. I insist. As Beatrice and I walked out, I heard him call after us. Whatever you're plotting, it won't work. Your father knew exactly what he was doing when he cut you out. Outside, Beatrice touched my arm. You okay? I took a deep breath of the cool San Francisco air. Pull up the gala presentation. I want to make some changes to the opening sequence. The tribute video? Yes, I said, thinking of my mother's face as she read those old documents. Let's start with a history of women in tech. The forgotten ones. The silenced ones. Like your mom? Like my mom. I checked my phone. Another text from Carson. Found something big in the old server backup. Come quick. Head back to the office, I told Beatrice. I need to make a stop first. I drove to my mother's house, questions burning in my mind. What was she about to tell me before Elijah interrupted? But when I arrived, she wasn't home. Instead, I found a note taped to her door. There's more to the story. Your father didn't just take my code. He took someone else's, too. Check the original patent dates. Look for a woman's name. I'm sorry I kept this secret so long. Mom. Standing there, holding that note, I realized this wasn't just about my inheritance anymore. This wasn't even about revenge. This was about every woman who'd ever been pushed aside, written out, or bought off. And in 2 weeks, at the gala, their stories would finally be heard. Play it again, I told Carson, watching the old video footage we'd discovered in the server backup. The grainy recording showed a company meeting from 1992, my father standing at a podium during the company's first major product launch. Watch the woman in the background, Carson said, pointing to a figure partially hidden behind a pillar. That's her, isn't it? The woman was taking notes, her face serious and focused. She looked exactly like the photo in the original patent documents my mother had mentioned. Sarah Martinez, I said, the real architect of the security protocol that made Dad's company famous. And another woman he wrote out of history, Carson added, pausing the video. Your mom found her? Living in Arizona now, I said, checking my phone. I've got a call scheduled with her in an hour. The gala preparations were in full swing around us. The Four Seasons ballroom buzzed with activity as workers hung banners and set up the stage. A massive screen dominated the back wall, ready for our presentation. Beatrice rushed over, clipboard in hand. The journalists are confirmed. We've got TechCrunch, Wired, Forbes. What about the Wall Street Journal? I asked. Front row, she smiled. Right next to Elijah's assigned seat. My phone buzzed. Turner calling. I stepped away to answer. Ariel, he said, sounding worried. Elijah's lawyers are asking questions about the patent history. Let them ask, I replied. How long before they find it? A day, maybe 2. The original filing is public record. Perfect timing, I said, watching the workers adjust the lighting. Just in time for the gala. After hanging up, I walked the ballroom, checking every detail. The table settings gleamed, each place card carefully positioned. I stopped at Elijah's seat, right beneath the main screen. Ms. Vasquez? A worker approached with a large covered frame. Where would you like your father's portrait? Center stage, I said, but don't uncover it until I give the signal. My phone buzzed again. Sarah Martinez was ready for our call. I found a quiet corner and dialed. Mrs. Martinez? Thank you for taking my call. Please call me Sarah, she said, her voice warm but tired. Your mother told me what you're planning. Are you sure you want to open this door? Did he threaten you? I asked. Like he threatened my mother? A long pause. He didn't have to. He just showed me the stack of legal papers and mentioned how expensive good lawyers are. I had 2 kids in college. And he bought your silence with a settlement. Which expired last month, she said, just like your mother's. I watched the workers adjust my father's portrait on stage. Would you be willing to record a video statement? For the gala? Already did, she replied. Your mother's friend helped me set it up yesterday. It's time the truth came out. After the call, I found Carson by the tech booth, reviewing the presentation sequence. Sarah's video just arrived, he said. It's powerful stuff. Want to see? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Elijah. Just found some interesting old patents. We need to talk. Not yet, I texted back. Save it for the gala. His reply was immediate. Whatever you're planning, remember who holds the cards now. I showed Carson the message. He's getting nervous. Good, Carson said. But Ariel, are you ready for the fallout? This won't just expose your father's lies. It'll shake the entire tech industry. Look around, I said, gesturing to the ballroom. Every woman in this industry has a story like Sarah's, like my mother's. Maybe it's time for some shaking. Beatrice joined us, holding her tablet. Final guest list is locked in. Your mother confirmed she's coming. And the special presentation? She nodded. Cued and ready. We've got backup copies on 3 different servers. My phone buzzed one more time. Turner again. Elijah's lawyers found the original patent. They're drafting cease and desist letters. I smiled, thinking of the documents safely stored in our secure servers, the videos ready to play, the journalists primed for a story that would rock Silicon Valley. Let them try, I told Carson and Beatrice. The truth doesn't need anyone's permission to come out. Looking up at my father's covered portrait, I thought about his last words to me. You never deserved it. He was right, in a way. I never deserved to be written out of history, just like my mother never deserved to be silenced, just like Sarah never deserved to have her work stolen. In 3 days at the gala, we'd all get exactly what we deserved. The truth, served cold and public, with a side of long overdue justice. You can't do this. Elijah burst into my office the day before the gala, waving a stack of papers. These patents, they'll destroy everything. I didn't look up from my laptop. Interesting how quickly you found them once you started looking. Your father built this company from nothing. My father stole this company from the women who actually built it. I cut in, finally meeting his eyes. And you knew, didn't you? That's why you're really here. He collapsed into the chair across from my desk, his usual polished demeanor cracking. I found the settlement papers in his safe, the ones with your mother's signature and Sarah's. And when did you find those? Before or after you married me? His silence was answer enough. That's why you pushed so hard for me to focus on being a wife instead of working, I continued. You and Dad were afraid I'd find out the truth if I got too involved in the company. We were protecting you. You were protecting yourselves. I stood up, anger finally breaking through. Do you know what it did to my mother? Watching another woman run the company she built? Having to smile at charity events while Dad took credit for her work? Elijah leaned forward. Look, we can fix this. The inheritance, we can split it. 50-50. I laughed, the sound harsh in the quiet office. You still don't get it. This isn't about money. Then what do you want? I want the truth to come out. All of it. I walked to my window, looking down at the city below. Did you know my mother used to code until 3 a.m? She taught herself programming while pregnant with me. Built the original prototype in our garage. Ariel, please. His voice turned desperate. Think about the company's reputation. The stock price. Should have thought about that before you married me for my father's stolen empire. I turned back to him. How's that working out for you, by the way? He stood up, straightening his tie, a nervous habit I remembered from our marriage. I'll stop you. The lawyers can't do anything, I finished. The NDA's expired with Dad's death. Sarah and my mother are free to tell their stories, and tomorrow night they will. You'll regret this, he threatened, moving toward the door. No, Elijah. The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner. After he left, Carson poked his head in. Everything okay? I heard shouting. He found the patents, I said, sinking back into my chair. And the settlements. Good timing, Carson grinned. Wait till he sees what else we found. My phone buzzed. My mother calling. Mom, what's wrong? I just got a visit from Elijah, she said, her voice shaking. He offered me money to stay quiet. What did you say? I told him my silence wasn't for sale anymore. She paused. Ariel, there's something else. Something about your father's last days. A knock at my door interrupted us. Beatrice with the final gala schedule. Mom, can this wait until tomorrow? No, it's important. Your father, before he died, he tried to... Another knock, more urgent this time. Turner stood in my doorway, face pale. Mom, I have to go. We'll talk tomorrow, okay? Turner waited until I hung up before speaking. There's been a development. Your father's personal diary. I found entries about Sarah and your mother. And? And about you. He pulled out a worn leather notebook. He knew you were investigating the patents. That's why he changed his will. I took the diary with trembling hands. There, in my father's handwriting. Ariel's too close to the truth. She's been accessing old records, asking questions. I can't let her take control. She'll expose everything. Elijah will protect our legacy. He understands what's at stake. When did you find this? I asked Turner. This morning. It was in a sealed envelope meant to be delivered to Elijah after the will was executed. I flipped through the pages, decades of my father's secrets laid bare. Does Elijah know about this? Not yet. I thought, you should see it first. I reached for my phone, texting Carson. Emergency meeting, now. Within minutes, Carson and Beatrice were in my office, reading the diary entries. This changes everything, Beatrice said. He didn't just know about the stolen patents. He was actively covering them up until the end. No, I said, an idea forming. This changes nothing. In fact, it makes tomorrow even better. What are you thinking? Carson asked. I picked up my father's diary, a small smile playing on my lips. I think it's time we add one more item to tomorrow's presentation. After all, what better way to tell the truth than through my father's own words? The diary felt heavy in my hands, the weight of decades of lies, finally ready to be exposed. Tomorrow couldn't come soon enough. The pre-gala tech showcase was in full swing, with hundreds of women demonstrating their innovations across the conference center floor. I stood at the entrance, watching Beatrice guide a group of journalists through our latest projects. And this, she was saying, is our newest AI ethics initiative, developed entirely by women who came through our mentorship program. My phone buzzed. A message from Sarah. Just landed. Your mother picked me up. We're ready for tomorrow. Quite an empire you've built. A familiar voice said behind me. I turned to find Turner, looking uncomfortable in the bustling tech environment. The kind my father never understood. I replied. What brings you here? This. He handed me a sealed envelope. Your father's last letter to Elijah. It was supposed to be delivered tomorrow, but I thought you should see it first. Before I could open it, Carson rushed over. Ariel, you need to see this. Now. He led me to a quiet corner and pulled up a news article on his tablet. The headline made my blood run cold. Tech pioneer's widow claims ownership of revolutionary software patent. Your father's new wife, Carson explained. She's saying he promised her rights to the original code. I skimmed the article, my hands tightening on the tablet. She's lying. She didn't even know him when the code was written. She has documents, Carson said. They look forged, but they'll muddy the waters. I finished. Try to discredit tomorrow's revelation. My phone buzzed again. My mother this time. Sarah and I are going through the old code files. You won't believe what we found. Tell them to wait, I told Carson. I'm heading over. But before I could leave, Beatrice appeared with the journalists in tow. Ariel, they have questions about tomorrow's announcement. I'm sorry, I said to the eager reporters. But tomorrow's presentation will speak for itself. I promise it's worth the wait. After they dispersed, I ducked into an empty conference room and finally opened Turner's envelope. The letter inside was dated just days before my father's death. Elijah, protect my legacy at all costs. Ariel knows too much. The women, they must stay silent. Use whatever means necessary. The money is yours if you succeed. Harold, my hands shook as I called my mother. Mom, what did you find? Hidden comments in the original code, she said, her voice excited. Sarah and I both used to leave messages in our work. Timestamps, signatures, proof we wrote it. Your father thought he deleted them all, but programmers always leave breadcrumbs, I finished. Can you document everything? Already done. Sarah's daughter, she's a digital forensics expert. She's verifying everything right now. I looked out the conference room window at the showcase floor, where dozens of women were demonstrating their innovations, each of them standing on the shoulders of women like my mother and Sarah, women who refused to stay silent. My phone buzzed with a text from Elijah. "Your father's wife contacted my lawyers. Last chance to stop this." Another buzz. Turner. "Elijah's trying to get an emergency injunction to stop tomorrow's presentation." And another. Carson. "Media's going crazy with speculation about tomorrow. Stock price is already fluctuating." I walked back out to the showcase floor, watching Beatrice demonstrate our latest project, a platform helping women document and protect their intellectual property. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Ms. Vasquez?" A young programmer approached me, her eyes bright with admiration. "I just wanted to say thank you. Your program changed my life." "What's your name?" I asked. "Maria. I was about to quit tech before I found your nonprofit. The harassment, the stolen credit, it felt hopeless. I thought about my mother, about Sarah, about all the women who came before. It won't always be like this, Maria. Sometimes the truth just needs a spotlight." My phone buzzed one final time. "Sarah, code verification complete. Everything documented. Your father can't bury us anymore." I texted Carson. "Add one more section to tomorrow's presentation. Let's show them exactly how code signatures work." Then I messaged Elijah. "See you tomorrow. Front row, remember? You won't want to miss this." Looking around the showcase floor, at all these brilliant women sharing their innovations, I finally understood. This wasn't just about exposing my father's lies or getting revenge on Elijah. This was about breaking a cycle, about ensuring no other woman would have her work stolen, her voice silenced. Tomorrow, the truth wouldn't just come out. It would echo. The Four Seasons ballroom hummed with anticipation. Every seat was filled. Tech executives, journalists, and in the front row, exactly where I'd placed him, sat Elijah, looking increasingly uncomfortable as the minutes ticked by. "Ready?" Carson whispered as we stood backstage. I checked my phone one last time. A message from my mother. "We're in position. Sarah's ready." "Start the show," I told Carson. The lights dimmed, and the massive screen came to life with our opening video, a montage of women in tech through the decades. The familiar corporate music faded, and I stepped onto the stage. "Good evening," I began, my voice steady. 10 years ago, we started this nonprofit with a simple mission: to ensure no woman's contribution to technology would go unrecognized. My eyes found Elijah's in the crowd. He was gripping his armrest, knuckles white. "Tonight we're going to tell you a story. It begins in 1992 in a garage in Palo Alto." The screen behind me shifted to show old footage. My mother, younger and determined, typing at an ancient computer. That's Bridget Vasquez, writing the code that would become the foundation of one of tech's biggest companies. I paused, letting the whispers ripple through the crowd. A company my father claimed he built alone. Security guards appeared at the ballroom doors as Elijah started to rise. I saw Turner place a restraining hand on his arm. "But she wasn't alone," I continued. "Sarah Martinez, would you please stand?" From the middle of the room, Sarah stood, dignified and proud. The screen changed to show her original patent applications. The security protocols that made the company famous? That was Sarah's work. Work my father bought and buried. Gasps echoed through the room. Journalists were frantically taking notes. And here, I clicked to the next slide showing my father's diary entries, is the proof, in his own words. Elijah finally broke free from Turner and stood. "This is slander. I have injunction papers." "Which won't hold up," Turner interrupted, standing as well. "Because everything she's saying is documented. In fact," he pulled out a folder. "I have the original settlement papers right here." The screen shifted again, showing lines of code with embedded signatures and timestamps. "For the technical minds in the room," I continued over the growing murmurs, "you'll recognize these signatures. Every programmer leaves their mark. My father thought he erased them all. He was wrong." My mother stood now, moving to join Sarah. The two women who had built an empire, only to have it stolen, finally standing together in the light. But this isn't just about historical correction, I said. This is about the future. The screen changed one final time, showing the transfer documents my father had signed. Last year, my father transferred 30% of company shares to our nonprofit's endowment. He thought it was a tax strategy. It was actually justice. Elijah lunged forward. You tricked him. He never would have. He signed it, Turner called out. I witnessed it myself. It's completely legal. And those shares, I continued, my voice rising over the chaos, will fund scholarships for women in tech. Forever. The room erupted in applause. I saw Beatrice wiping tears from her eyes in the second row. One final thing, I said, turning to the covered portrait of my father. Dad, you told me I never deserved your legacy. You were right. I pulled the cord, revealing not my father's portrait, but a collage. Hundreds of women who'd graduated from our programs, with my mother and Sarah's photos prominently featured. I didn't deserve your legacy of lies. None of us did. We deserved better, and now we're building it ourselves. The standing ovation was deafening. Journalists were already rushing for the doors, racing to break the story. Elijah stood frozen, watching as his inherited empire crumbled in real time. My mother and Sarah made their way to the stage, both crying and laughing at once. As they reached me, my mother pressed something into my hand, a floppy disk from 1992. The original code, she whispered. I kept it all these years, waiting for the right moment. Sarah hugged me tight. Thank you for finishing what we started. I looked out at the crowd, at the women cheering, at the men shifting uncomfortably in their seats, at Elijah being cornered by reporters. No, I said, holding up the disc. Thank you for showing us the way. The headlines would come tomorrow. The legal battles would follow. But standing there with these pioneering women beside me, I knew we'd already won the most important victory. The truth was finally free, and no one could bury it again. The board votes unanimously to approve the resolution, Turner announced, closing his folder with a satisfying thump. Across the conference table, Elijah slumped in his chair, defeated. So that's it? He asked. Everything goes to the foundation? Not everything, I replied. Just what was stolen in the first place. The original patents returned to their rightful creators. I nodded toward my mother and Sarah, who sat proudly at the head of the table. The rest of the inheritance is still yours, if you can figure out what's actually left. The morning sun streamed through the windows of what used to be my father's office. The headlines had been running nonstop since the gala. Tech empire built on stolen code, women pioneers reclaim their legacy, daughter exposes father's tech industry fraud. Sign here, Turner said, sliding papers toward Elijah. It's this or a very public court battle. Your choice. Elijah's hand shook as he picked up the pen. Your father would have hated this. My father hated a lot of things, I said, mostly the truth. As Elijah signed, Beatrice knocked and entered with Carson. The first scholarship recipients are here. Send them in. I smiled. 20 young women filed into the office, their eyes wide with excitement. Among them was Maria, the programmer from the showcase. Welcome to your new internship program, my mother said, standing to greet them. I'll be your lead mentor, along with Sarah. And I'll be teaching you how to protect your intellectual property, Sarah added, giving me a knowing look. Elijah stood abruptly, heading for the door. He paused beside me. You planned this all along, didn't you? From the moment he changed his will? No, I replied. I planned it from the moment I found my mother's original code comments. The will just gave me a better stage. After he left, Carson helped Turner gather the papers. The stock price is actually up, he reported. Turns out transparency is good for business. My phone buzzed. A message from Turner's secretary. Your father's wife withdrew her patent claim. No comment to the press. Ariel? Maria approached tentatively. We wanted to show you something. The interns gathered around a laptop, pulling up a project they'd been working on. It's a blockchain system for code attribution, Maria explained, so no one can ever steal or hide contributions again. My mother leaned in, examining the code. This is brilliant. Sarah, look at this architecture. The next generation, Sarah smiled. Building on our foundation, but reaching higher. Beatrice cleared her throat. Sorry to interrupt, but the documentary crew is here. They want to interview all three of you, Bridget, Sarah, and Ariel. Tell them we'll do it here, I said. In this office. It's time to rewrite the story of this room. As the crew set up their equipment, I walked to my father's old desk, my desk now. The wooden surface still held the marks from decades of his presence, but they seemed less imposing somehow. You know, my mother said softly, joining me. He called me that last week. Your father. He wanted to confess, to make it right. What stopped him? Pride, fear, the same things that always stopped him. She touched the desk gently. But you did what he couldn't. The interns were setting up their workstations in the outer office, their excited chatter filtering through the doors. Sarah was already teaching them about digital watermarks, her passion for coding undimmed by years of silence. Ms. Vasquez? The documentary director approached. We're ready. Where would you like to begin? I looked at my mother, at Sarah, at the room full of young women ready to change the world. Let's begin with the truth, the whole truth. Carson caught my eye from across the room and grinned. Think your father ever imagined his office would become an incubator for women in tech? No, I said, watching the future unfold around me. But that's the thing about karma. It doesn't care what you imagine. It cares what you deserve. The cameras started rolling as my mother, Sarah, and I took our seats. 3 generations of women in tech, finally claiming our space. Tell us about the code, the interviewer began. My mother smiled, her fingers miming typing on an invisible keyboard. It started in a garage, with a dream and a borrowed computer. Outside the office windows, Silicon Valley stretched out before us, its landscape of glass and steel now holding different possibilities. Not just for us, but for every woman with the courage to write her own story. And this time, no one would erase it.